Chapter 2. The Italian. "Are you all right, dear?" The young man glances up from his coffee. His dark eyes dart about, broken from their trance. A concerned woman with curly white hair is staring at him from the next table. A newspaper flutters in her wrinkled hand. The date on top reads, Friday, 25 March, 1938. The main headline beneath it tells something about a break-in at the Vatican in Rome. Nervously, the man offers the elderly woman a feeble grin and nods his assurance that he is indeed all right. Even as he does, he squeezes the handle of his large suitcase. He hasn't let go of it since boarding the boat. With his free hand, he pulls a handkerchief from the front pocket of his suitcoat and uses it to sponge away the sweat on his tan forehead. He has been aboard the passenger ferry for a whole morning and has vomited twice into the emerald waters of the Tyrrhenian Sea. Still, his stomach seems unable to calm down. Neither the fresh air of the deck nor the light lunch has worked to settle his insides. But seasickness is not the worst of his worries today. He glances from side to side, then peeks down at his watch. He left Palermo on the island of Sicily shortly after 6 o'clock that morning. This means he has less than an hour until arriving at Naples on the Italian mainland. He has arranged for a car to meet him there. With any luck, he will cross the border into Switzerland, and safety, before the next sunrise. Until then, the fresh-faced man with the slick side part in his dark hair knows he is vulnerable. His enemies are many, and they are powerful. Ettore Majorana grips the suitcase tightly, peering into the distant horizon. Eastward, the rocky coastline of southern Italy rises from the sea like the golden teeth of some great monster. To the north, the direction his ship is heading, he recognizes the Sorrentine Peninsula. After the ship sails around this pointed spit of land, he and the rest of the passengers will arrive at the lively seaport of Naples. Almost there, he reassures himself. Then I will be safe. Then no one can touch me. But Ettore's hopeful musings do not last long. "Excuse me," the elderly woman chirps again. She seems to be stealing quick, furtive glances at something behind Ettore. "Do you know those men, sitting a few tables back? They have seemed quite interested in you for some time now." His eyes grow wide, and his heart shrinks with fear. "Are they friends of yours?" the woman inquires. In a low whisper, Ettore asks, "What do they look like?" The woman squints for a better look, then answers, "One tall, one fat. The fat one has a mustache, and the tall one is quite handsome. Both are wearing dark, pinstripe suits." Ettore's blood turns icy in his veins. Certainly, these are the same men who approached him yesterday in Palermo's beautiful Piazza Pretoria. Luckily for him, he had stashed the suitcase at a friend's apartment. They harassed him a bit and made some meager threats, but as long as the suitcase was safe, they were unable to cause any real damage. Now, the suitcase sits at his feet. He is uncertain whether these men will kill in order to obtain it, but he does know what resides inside the suitcase is worth one human life. Perhaps more. "Please, will you do me a favor?" Ettore pleads with the woman. "Those are bad men. They are trying to rob me of something very valuable. Already they have made many threats against my life and the lives of my family." The old woman's eyes narrow. She plainly does not like men who rob and make threats. "I'll help," she whispers, unable to hide her excitement. "Good," Ettore says with a slight grin. "Take your drink and get up, as if you are leaving to go below decks. As you pass, stumble and spill your glass over them and their table. I can use the diversion to sneak away and hide." "But why not go to the authorities?" wonders the old woman. "Because," Ettore answers, "these are not the sort of men whom the authorities will stop. These are the sort of men who hold authority over the authorities. Do you understand? Will you still help me?" "Of course I will," she says. She stands and smooths her black flower-printed dress. With one hand she grabs her oversized handbag and newspaper. She picks up her wine glass with the other. Before undertaking her mission, she whispers, "Good luck," then sets off. Moments later, Ettore hears an angry exclamation followed by the tinkling of shattered glass. As his accomplice cries for profuse apologies to the men in black suits, Ettore slips away from his table, suitcase in hand, and rounds the corner to the ferry's stern. He is out of sight here, but he cannot relax yet. The moment they see him missing, they will begin their hunt for him. A new volley of shouts, these ones curses, erupt from around the corner. The men have realized Ettore is no longer at his table. He hears the scuffle of crashing chairs and knows what it means. They are coming for him. With no time to form a plan, Ettore hurries through a narrow doorway. His eyes are accustomed to the bright daylight, which is why he doesn't notice the staircase in the darkness. Like a surprised octopus, he becomes a frenzy of flailing limbs as he slips and stumbles, and finally collapses at the bottom of the stairs. Ettore is certain he is covered in cuts and bruises, but he cannot dwell on the pain right now. Frantically, he sweeps the dropped suitcase back into his arms. Both its latches came undone when he fell, so he clutches it to his chest to keep it shut. Glancing around, he sees that he is in a dimly lit corridor. There are no other passengers here. Suddenly, the potent sunlight pouring through the doorway is obscured in shadow. Ettore instinctively looks upward, and, with the frightful sensation of a cornered animal, sees the broad-bodied figure of one pursuer. "It's over, Ettore," the fat man says calmly. "The game is up. There is nowhere for you to run anymore. Hand over the suitcase, and we can put this nasty business behind us." The top step creaks beneath the pursuer's weight as he begins down the staircase. Ettore dashes down the corridor. On the right-hand wall, he spots a lonely doorway. The sign indicates that through it he will find the women's lavatory. He hesitates. His sense of modesty, due to his proper upbringing, makes him pause. A quick glance backward, however, reveals that both men are at the bottom of the staircase. Ettore knows he is out of options. He slips into the lavatory and latches the door behind him, but the wood panels separating him from his pursuers are hardly thicker than cardboard. It won't take them long to beat down the door. And once they do, the game will truly be up. "Come, Majorana, open this door," implores a silky voice, which Ettore recognizes as belonging to the smaller man. "A scientist like you, with such a brilliant career already in his back pocket. You don't want it all to end like this, holed up in a woman's lavatory. This is not suitable for a man of your intellect, your station." He can't be certain, but he thinks he hears the drawing of a pistol hammer. He crams his body into the narrow space between the toilet and the far wall. As if his suitcase were filled with an elixir of eternal life, Ettore hugs it against his chest and waits for the worst. There are no gunshots, not yet. Instead, the men outside pound against the door. Ettore closes his eyes, wincing with each blow. Wood splinters, hinges creak, the lock rattles. He presses his face against the suitcase and prays that some deckhand or crew member might hear the commotion and apprehend them. These aren't the kind of men who will be stopped for good, but it could buy him enough time for an escape. Suddenly, Ettore gasps and cries out. He is falling, but he doesn't know how or why. As he opens his eyes, he sees not the dark walls of the lavatory. He sees instead the brilliant sunshine and a sky full of gray-bellied clouds. Before he can understand what has happened, his brief fall is broken. Cold seawater envelops him. It swirls around his legs, his torso, his head, filling his mouth and nostrils. He resurfaces, sputtering and coughing up water. Most importantly, Ettore realizes he is still holding the suitcase. Treading water with his legs, he hurriedly relatches the clasps which popped loose during his tumble down the stairs. He doesn't want the ancient object inside to wind up at the bottom of the ocean, as its counterpart did. Ettore glances in every direction for the ferry, but it is gone. Not merely behind him, sailing away into the distance. The boat has disappeared entirely. A moment earlier, Ettore was cowering on a bathroom floor deep in its dark belly. Now it has vanished, evaporated, like liquid beneath the hot sun. But this isn't the time to be mystified. There will be plenty of opportunity for the solving of mysteries later. Now is the time for surviving. Ettore notes the sun in its downward arc toward the western horizon. Using it like a compass, he swims north. If he keeps in that direction, he knows he should reach the Sorrentine Peninsula before too long. The ferry, he remembers, had been approaching that landmark before his escape into the lavatory. All he needs to do is tread water, made easier with the buoyant suitcase, and propel himself forward with his legs. It will not be an enjoyable afternoon, but he should reach safety soon enough. At least he still has his prize. He whispers a short prayer, hoping the suitcase won't become waterlogged and sink. If it does, all his troubles will have been for nothing. He remembers that the suitcase's interior chamber is sealed, completely airtight to protect the item inside, and his confidence builds. It will not sink, and neither will he. The sun is setting when Ettore finally arrives at the rock-studded shore. His aching legs carry his drenched body up a squat, stony hill. The moment he reaches the grassy field on top, he collapses. Lying with his cheek pressed against the earth, he sees the scattered, squat buildings of a rustic village in the distance. It isn't far, maybe a mile. Though every muscle in his body resists, he clambers to his feet. The heavy suitcase bounces against his left leg as he trudges wearily toward the village. He finds it strange that none of its electric lamps are glowing yet. The sun set some time ago, and twilight now covers the land. Ettore shivers against the night's settling chill. He must find a warm room and a dry pair of clothes. Soon. As he nears the buildings, he encounters more strange sights. The cars parked in front of them are unlike any he has ever seen, sleek and streamlined and painted with bright colors. The rooftops of some homes have gray, concave discs attached to them. They appear to be pointing upward toward the sky, as if receiving transmissions from outer space. Someone has abandoned a bicycle on the right-hand side of the road. Its frame and wheels are half the size of Ettore's own bicycle, and it is emblazoned with the letters BMX. Ahead of him, he sees that one of the futuristic cars has plowed into the side of a one-story home. Despite the gaping hole in the wall, no one seems to have cared enough to fix it, or even to remove the automobile. Creeping vines have grown up around both car and home, binding them together in their strange marriage. The town, he realizes, is utterly abandoned. There isn't a light on in any window, nor a single child running around outside, enjoying the final minutes of dusk. Wherever he is surely alone. Ettore shudders against the chill. Out of other options, he at last resorts to breaking and entering. He doesn't think anyone will mind, because there is no one to mind. He chooses a single-story brick house across the street from the one eating the car. The front door is unlocked. Ettore steps inside and peers about the darkness. Nothing looks right. Furniture, lamps, decorations, he has never seen anything like them. A flat black rectangle hangs on one wall, its dark screen covered in a thin film of dust. In the kitchen, he finds a stove with no knobs and a completely smooth surface. The word convection is printed in white letters near the front. An egg-shaped appliance called an air fryer sits on the counter next to tiny pods, claiming to hold coffee inside them. "Where am I?" Ettore asks the dark and empty room. The room doesn't answer. Then the truth hits him. He sets the suitcase on the kitchen floor and collapses beside it. Following such a bizarre afternoon, the shock of discovery has turned his legs to jelly. In wondering where he has come, Ettore realizes he's been asking the wrong question. He corrects himself with a whisper. "When am I?" Then, in a home not his own, and in a time not his own, Ettore Majorana slips into an exhausted sleep.